One of the techniques that will transform your performance is visualization or mental simulation. I'm going to include a short video by Lorraine Huber, an Austrian Olympic skier, as she walks through the steps that she goes through. And it is the same brain hacking that we can go through to improve our performance. I'd like to contrast this to the traditional way that coaches coach and train in the workplace. When you go through a training process of any assessment, the main focus is learning all about the system, and that's the world that I came out of. But what I found is it did not improve performance or behavior because it's about knowledge transfer, not about skill development. Now, there's a few ways you can do skill development. You can do on the job, or you can mentally simulate it. And it's a common practice that's been used for several decades, except we have not brought it into the workplace. And it's very simple. Every morning I go through a short routine. I read my genius paragraph and focus on the particular traits that I need today. And that genius portrait is a performance criteria no different than a skier, a pilot, or any athlete would go through. I want to show up at my best through all the different meetings and schedules and work that I have to do today. After I read that paragraph, I will look at my calendar and look at the next block of time, close my eyes, and mentally walk through all the steps as if I were really doing it, all the way to completion. What I find is that short rehearsal allows me to go straight into execution mode and oftentimes get into a flow state. So watch this video and I will come back at the end with some final thoughts.
So visualization can actually change your physiology. It can strengthen neural pathways, it can increase the muscular and brain activity. It's really phenomenal and super powerful if you do it correctly. So for the brain, there's actually not much difference between imagining doing something or actually doing it in real life. Imagine holding a citrus fruit. Imagine what that feels like in your hand. Now imagine that zesty smell. And now imagine yourself biting into the citrus fruit. If you can do that vividly in your mind's eye, your mouth will start watering. So how do you do it correctly? For the purpose of this video, let's stick with the example of skiing a line, but what we're going to talk about now is something that you can use for all kinds of situations that you'd like to do in flow, where you feel like it's going smoothly and it feels really effortless. To really build confidence skiing a line that you've never set foot on before, it's important to visualize in the first person or the internal perspective. So as if you were seeing it out of your own vantage point. Imagine you've got a GoPro on your head and you can only see what you would actually see in that situation, looking out of your own eyes. The next really important thing is to use all your senses when you're visualizing. Ask yourself, what can I see as I'm skiing this line? What landmarks can I see? How can I join those landmarks together? What is the shape of the terrain? Then ask yourself, what can I feel in terms of the kinesthetic sense? So you might imagine yourself arcing a turn and feeling that pressure on your downhill foot. You might feel yourself really contracting your muscles when you're landing a jump. And then the next step is to attach emotions to your visualization. So for example, you're standing on top of your line. Imagine that feeling of excitement in your belly, and imagine that bubbling up of excitement, wanting to drop into your line. Imagine maybe that excitement you have when you're approaching the air and you want to take off and you want to really stick it and land it, that determination that you feel. By adding the senses and the emotions and imagining the atmosphere and the actual surroundings you're in, you can make it super realistic for your brain. And what that means is that the simulation of the situation is going to be really effective. So what we've essentially done is practiced our line for our mind, for our body, and we've prepared a plan, a blueprint for the body to follow. So then when it's time to actually get into action, to do the actual performance, the mindset is very much trusting and letting it go. You can trust in the preparation that you did, in your visualization, all the planning, that was all that brain work. But now it's time to clear the mind, to let go, and to let the body take over and really do what it knows to do best.
Now, I realize that for most of you, this is a new skill, even a new mindset. So don't worry if it doesn't feel easy or natural at first. And make it simple. Simply read the paragraph first thing in the morning and see if you're aware of some of those traits showing up. With just a little bit of practice, it will only take a couple minutes each morning to do this, and if you want, before each of your main events. Now, at the end of the day, that's where the real training of the brain comes in. That's when I reflect on those highlight moments, and this is part of our practice called bookend days. The first part of the bookend is the morning, where I read the paragraph, imagine myself through the day. The second part of the bookend is in the evening, where I reflect on those highlight moments. And times when people expressed high value, I'll recapture that, and then I'll reflect back on which of my traits came alive at that moment. Now contrast, this is the state of the art of performance science, and let's contrast that to what most people go through as they wake up, get into their rush, go through the routine in default mode without any forethought and oftentimes in reactive mode, and then at the end when they're tired, they just go to bed. I call that a sandcastle day. You built something throughout the day, but it got washed away. The only way to consistently improve is to set goals, to rehearse them, to have means of feedback, and then to reflect on that performance and decide where to improve, what needs to change, where do you want to grow. So if this has been helpful to you and you'd like to learn more, please check out Genius Spark, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and follow me on LinkedIn. And remember, the key to becoming your best is to become more like yourself, less like anyone else. Take care.